Oh, there's a Leah. You gave them every chance to win. If you look at this in slow motion, you can see Caitlin Clark clearly smiling in confusion, smiling in, did that really just happen? Smiling in, you slide W. And she says, she points at the other team, you gave them every chance to win. Oh, goodness gracious. Caitlin Clark, she's chomping at the bits to start talking to these referees during the game.
The WNBA is no stranger to controversy, but what went down after the Indiana Fever's nail-biting 76-75 victory over the Los Angeles Sparks on August 29th has fans convinced the league has a much bigger problem.
One referee, we definitely have to check for betting slips for this guy right here. I think his name is like Agun Agazi, because it sure seemed like he did not want to let the Fever take away this win, making the last 1.9 seconds last almost 5 minutes. He was just like letting them call a reset timeout, and then he was like, no, it's a foul. But I think the worst part about that 1.9 seconds was when 0.4 seconds was left on the clock, and Kelsey Mitchell was at the free throw line. She was trying to miss on purpose because that takes time off of the clock, because if she would have made it in, they would have been able to inbound and possibly do a tip in. But this guy allowed a reset timeout. When do you allow a reset timeout?
Than anyone wants to admit. Instead of celebrating a hard-fought win, the headlines were dominated by allegations of referee bias, social media explosions, and some of the league's biggest names calling out what they believe is a rigged system hiding in plain sight. Chennedy Coulson, who hasn't played a minute this season due to a torn ACL.
Everybody saw in that game. Like, it didn't really matter what was going on. We all knew what was happening. We all knew what was happening there. And the game was being given. The game was absolutely being given to the Sparks. They were giving the Sparks every single chance possible to go and win that game. Even though realistically, did they deserve to win that game? Hell no. Hell no. They did not. And I mean that. They did not deserve to win that.
Couldn't hold back when she saw what unfolded. From her living room, she fired off a tweet that instantly lit up the internet. At a certain point in the league's existence, I'ma need Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually. And I've considered roping my sister in to have her office pursue charges. It was funny, sure, but behind the humor was rage. Coulson wasn't joking about the mistreatment she was seeing. And just when fans were reacting to that tweet, Caitlin Clark stepped in with a sarcastic but deadly accurate line, "Careful, you're going to get fined." 5 words that summed up the entire mess.
At a certain point in the league's existence, I'm gonna need for Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as each other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually, and I've considered roping my sister in it to have office purse charges. Now, this is when Caitlin Clark chimed in. Caitlin Clark said, "Careful, you're going to get fined." Then Chennedy Coulson said, "I can't."
Everyone knew what she meant. This league doesn't just ignore referee bias, it punishes anyone who dares to point it out. And just like that, a conversation about one bad game turned into a spotlight on a league-wide problem. What set it all off was a series of referee decisions that left Fever players and fans shaking their heads. The most glaring came with 1.9 seconds left in the game. Instead of managing the clock properly, one official stretched those final seconds into an eternity, giving the Sparks extra chances with questionable resets and bizarre calls. At one point, with just 4 seconds left, the refs allowed a reset timeout, something that left even casual fans stunned. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell, who had been driving hard to the basket all game, kept getting knocked around like a pinball machine without drawing whistles. On one play, Kelsey Plum clearly grabbed and yanked her, but the refs looked the other way.
Please tell me y'all saw Caitlin Clark, the GOAT. Y'all saw Caitlin Clark crash out on the bald head ref last night. Please tell me y'all saw this. And she had Caitlin Clark spazzed on the referee last night. And I'm not mad about it. I see a lot of the haters talking about, oh, she be doing too much with the man. Mind your business. You are not in a GOAT's place, so stay out of a GOAT's business, okay? It's that simple. The officiating was awful last night. I don't know what was going on in that Los Angeles Sparks Indiana Fever game, but the officiating
Fans online
was
were
flat.
quick to ask, who is paying these refs and what game are they even watching? Mitchell still managed to score, but the tone was set. This wasn't going to be about basketball. It was going to be about who got the whistle and who didn't. The Fever bench couldn't take it anymore. Players were screaming, coaches were livid, and even Clark, sitting injured on the sidelines, stood up and let the refs hear it. She pointed to the other team, yelling, "You gave them every chance to win." But instead of punishing the refs for their incompetence, the officials slapped Fever guard Lexi Hull with a technical foul for the crime of being upset at an obvious missed call. Think about that. The team that was fouled gets punished, while the fouling team gets away free. Fans called it the most blatant example of bias they'd seen all season, and from the looks of it, they weren't wrong. What should have been remembered as a thrilling win instantly turned into chaos. And then came the social media firestorm. Coulson's tweet went viral. Clark's response only poured gasoline on the flames. Lynn Dunn, a respected former executive, jumped into the conversation.
Kelsey Mitchell's whistle last night was horrific. And Kelsey drove to the basket a lot. She is the type of person that just goes through a lot of defenders, and she wasn't getting a call. This really was not her game. She was not hitting it from the three whatsoever, but everyone is entitled to having a bad game here and there, and I think she was kind of due for one because of the tear that she's been on lately. Even Sid Coulson took to Twitter to talk about it, saying, at a certain point in the league's existence, I'm gonna need Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually, and I've considered
saying she would personally help pay the fines if players kept speaking the truth. Fans across the country echoed the same thing. Enough is enough. The officiating isn't just inconsistent, it's damaging the credibility of the league itself. But here's where it gets even uglier. The WNBA has a long track record of silencing its players with financial intimidation. Sophie Cunningham has been fined not once, not twice, but 3 times for calling out officials. Once for a TikTok lip sync poking fun at refs, another time for podcast comments, and a 3rd time for pointing out how rookie Paige Buchers was getting star treatment while everyone else had to fight for every whistle. And what did those fines add up to? Over $2,000, which might not sound like much in men's leagues, but when you're making under $100,000 for an entire season, it's a huge hit. Imagine being punished for telling the truth about your workplace. That's exactly what's happening here. So when Clark said, "Careful, you're going to get fined," it wasn't just sarcasm. It was reality. Players now have to weigh every single word they post, every comment they make, against the risk of losing thousands of dollars. That's not professional sports. That's financial bullying disguised as discipline. And players like Coulson are sick of it.
Talking about the refs than that. More people are talking about Caitlin Clark's reaction than that. And that just sums up how bad the refereeing is that we have seen an unbelievable game. We have seen an unbelievable game. A game where you're like, okay, maybe, just maybe, the Fever have not even just maybe, the Fever put themselves in a great position. They put themselves in a great position to succeed. But now you're looking and you're like, what do people remember from this game?
But Coulson's tweet was more than just a vent. It was the loudest alarm bell yet about what players are truly dealing with. She's not even on the court right now, yet she felt the need to speak up because the injustice had become impossible to ignore. And when Clark immediately fired back with that sarcastic warning, fans understood the unspoken truth. Players know they're being watched, monitored, and threatened with fines if they step out of line. That's why this exchange was so explosive. It ripped the lid off what the league has been trying to keep hidden. But what makes this issue even more damning is the hard data. 17% of all flagrant fouls committed this season have been against Caitlin Clark. 17%.
Bazzi, how much money you got on that game? You took the Sparks to win, huh? Didn't you? You took the Sparks to win, huh? Didn't you? It's okay. It's okay. Maybe next time. Maybe next time you'll get the benefit of the doubt. The referees are bad, Bo. The referees are absolutely horrendous in this game. There's no other way to call it for what it is. The referees are abysmal. And you can't help but wonder.
One rookie carrying almost a fifth of the league's most dangerous hits. That's not coincidence. That's targeted abuse. And the fact that the whistles aren't there to protect her makes it even worse. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell, a proven scorer and veteran presence, can attack the rim all night long and barely make it to the free throw line. Against the Sparks, she drove relentlessly, but only got 2 trips to the stripe. Compare that to stars on other teams, who seem to get whistles for the slightest contact, and the double standard is obvious. Paige Bueckers, another rising star, has already started receiving that protective treatment. Sophie Cunningham, who openly called it out, said, "You couldn't even touch her." And what was the league's response? Not to look into it. Not to consider whether referees were favoring one rookie over another. Instead, they fined Cunningham again. The message couldn't be clearer. Shut your mouth or pay the price. This is why Coulson's "I can't get fined anymore" reply to Clark hits so hard. She's already been punished for speaking truth to power. She's reached her limit. And yet here she is, risking more by doubling down.
Sid Coulson is someone that everyone used to call the face of the league because she gets along with everybody. So when she's taking to Twitter to complain about something, it must be bad. Because usually she's just really funny, kind of cracking jokes here and there. And although this was pretty funny, there was a tone of seriousness, like calling out the referees, because the way that the Indiana Fever has been officiated, I think she finally understands from being on the team. And I'm telling you, this team sticks
That's
together.
how serious this problem has become. Players are literally willing to risk their paychecks to tell the world what they see happening on the court. But what about the fans? The fans aren't blind either. Clips from that Sparks Fever game have been circulating like wildfire. Every questionable call, every ignored foul, every technical handed to the wrong team, it's all out there, slowed down, replayed, and dissected. And the verdict from viewers is unanimous. The officiating was a disgrace. Even neutral fans admitted it looked like the Sparks were being handed every chance to win. The outrage wasn't limited to Twitter either. Fever fans were offering to chip in money to help pay any fines their players got for speaking out. Former executives like Lynn Dunn were pledging public support. It's rare to see fans and former league insiders align so strongly against the front office, but this controversy managed to do it. That tells you just how deep the frustration runs. And yet, instead of addressing the real issue,
got every single call imaginable, and it was just noticeable, to the point you got Caitlin Clark running on the floor ready to crash out on a ref in the middle of the game, to the point where it's obvious. It's like the fix was in. The fix was completely in. So the WNBA needs to do something about this. Kathy Engelberg, you need to get a hold of what's going on here. The officiating Kelsey Mitchell
the
get knocked
incompetence
around
and
like a
possible
damn
corruption of officiating, the league has chosen to dig in. They've built an environment where referees are untouchable, and criticism is met with financial punishment. That's not a healthy system. That's a dictatorship. Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White has been sounding the alarm for months. She's repeatedly called the officiating egregious, pointing out the double standards applied to her team. She's been fined for her honesty too. Imagine being punished for telling the truth about how your players are being treated. That's exactly what's happening in today's WNBA. The pattern is impossible to ignore. What's a foul for one team magically becomes clean defense for another. Screens that get whistled against Indiana are allowed for opponents. Players like Clark get technical fouls for showing frustration, while others can scream, shove, or even commit flagrants without consequence. It's like watching 2 different games being played with 2 different sets of rules. The referee at the center of the Sparks controversy, Agon Abazi, has been connected to questionable calls in multiple games this year. Fans have started pointing out his name every time another bizarre whistle changes the momentum, and the whispers have started growing louder. Is this just incompetence, or is something more sinister at play? The way those final seconds against the Sparks dragged out, the repeated resets, the bizarre decisions, it had fans asking out loud whether someone had money riding on the outcome. That's how badly the officials lost credibility. When fans are openly speculating about betting slips and fixed games, the league has a crisis on its hands. The sad part is that fixing this wouldn't be hard. The WNBA could implement accountability measures. They could review controversial calls. They could create a transparent process for grading referees and disciplining poor performance.